Alright, I am going to do a little bit of a hair rooting, not so much a tutorial, but just like a show and tell rather of a thing. I've painted hair on Little Promise, and so I'm getting ready. He's nice and hot. I have to root when they're hot, otherwise my hands freak out. So this is the hair I'm going to use for him. This is alpaca hair. This is a piece that I washed and cleaned and dyed myself, but you can see, or maybe you can't see, the color variations in the hair. There's some lighter browns mixed with some darker browns. I'm going to selectively take out a pinch of the lighter stuff so that I can use it around the face. Naturally, people have blonder or lighter colored hair around the face than they do around the back of the head. So I'm always going to use the cut end. So I've cut that, and I'm going to get rid of all the little tiny stragglers. Now with the head on its side, I'm going to grab one of my needles. These are 46 gauge crown needles. And I'm going to hold the hair that I'm working with. And that put too many in, so I'm going to come pull some of this out so that I only have 1 or 2 hairs in the head. This is a new needle, and I don't want it to bleed anymore on my head, so I'm going to poke a few times in the head to get rid of the dark. Can you see the little dark holes? It's just a kind of a dirty debris, and I forgot to do that before I poked it in his head, so it left a little mark there. Alright. I'm steering where I want these hairs to go. One at a time, or as few at a time as I can get. Like that one has too many, so I'm going to come pull a couple out until there's only one. I follow this hairline. I don't want to follow it all the way up. I have it kind of all the way up into the hair, so I'm going to just follow it where it's darkest and let the painted parts fade into the facial area. I don't choose to use the tools that you can buy to cut your needles and have a rooting tool. They're just too big and bulky, and I don't like having to tweak my hands to work with them anymore. So I've just gone to using the straight full-size needle uncut. And this needle has 3 sides. It's a triangle at the bottom, and there's 1 nick on each side. So I've discovered that as long as that little nub right there is facing up, that one of the sides is always facing down. So your job, or my job, is to make it so that they're evenly spaced as they go in, so there's no big gaping holes. And the closer they are together, the thicker the hair is going to be. Sometimes it catches 1 hair, sometimes it catches a couple hairs, but around the face I always try to like it to only catch a very few so it doesn't look huge and thick and pluggy. And I painted the hair on first so that I can have a pattern to follow. This also helps it so I don't have to have the hair in so thick to get it as dark, because it's darker underneath with the hair pattern. Hair rooting takes a long time. I'm pretty fast at it these days, but it used to take me weeks to do 1 head because I didn't realize you could heat it up before each time. And then I got clever and figured out that if I got it hot first, that it would be easier on my hands, and that the hair would go in and I would break less needles. The littler the head, though, the harder it is, because it's just such a tiny thing to hold on to. I'm trying to keep my needle at a really tight angle to the head so the hair stays as flat to the head as it can. If I put my needle going straight in, the hair's going to stick out like a porcupine. I can usually do about the size of a quarter, maybe a little bit more on these little heads. If it's made in China vinyl, it's a lot easier to root. For some reason the vinyl is softer, so I can usually do bigger chunks in a setting. But when the vinyl starts to cool off, I have to stop and put it in the oven and heat it back up for 10 minutes or so, just so I can get it warm enough to work with again. I'm going to do all the way around the head, and then I'll come back up and do the top of the head. This hair is going in the length that I cut it, so I'm going to have to cut this baby's hair. I could have cut it shorter to begin with, but sometimes it's hard for my hands to pinch tiny clumps like that when they're really short. It makes my hands cramp up and I can't function very well afterwards. So I have to use a little bit longer hair so I have a better hold on it. So I will cut this baby's hair when it's done. Otherwise it would end up with a preemie with 3-inch long hair, and that's super unrealistic. This part can be boring. I know some people watch TV with it, but if I have to look up, I can't root. So I can't do that. So I listen to audiobooks while I'm rooting typically. I was going to do a tutorial on how to do the hair painting, but my helper was unavailable to help with the video part of it, so I just did it myself so I wouldn't delay these babies anymore. This is a memory baby with the other ones that I'm working on, and I don't like to keep them waiting as long as possible, so I did what I could to just make it get to the point where I needed to, so I could do what I could as quickly as I could. My least favorite part is around the back of the neck because of the angle that it puts on the needle. It's kind of tricky and it makes my hand crampy. I do glue this hair. I'll show you at the end of the video what kind of glue that I use. It's the only glue that I have found to stay put, to not peel, to not sneak out the holes and poison the hair from the outside. And to not look shiny and icky, and to actually hold strong and stay adhered to the vinyl head on the inside. I've tried Mod Podge, I've tried Gorilla Glue, I've tried Ultimate Craft Glues, Eileen's Craft Glues, Spray-In Craft Glues, you name it. I've been doing this for over 8 years, and I've tried way too many glues to count, and so far this is the only one that I have found that I actually really like using, and I have been using it for 2 or 3 years now because I like it. Okay, this head is starting to cool off to the point where it's hard to get the hair to stay in. It's kind of my indicator. The hair is not wanting to stay in as much as it used to. So I'm going to kind of finish off this line that I'm working on, and then I'm going to put it back in the oven. And I'll show you the glue that I'm using before I go. I'm not going to show you every single part. I'll probably come back in towards the end and show you the face, and then show you the hair cutting of it. You see the needle I'm moving to go with the hair pattern. The hair is coming in a line this way, and here's this way. So when it gets to be up here, I'm going to come in this way. I have to keep the needle in the direction that the hair is growing so that it keeps it a directional hair growth. I can't imagine watching this. I'm sorry if this is super boring. I just find that it's easier for me to do things if I can see it done myself, so I'm hoping that this will help somebody. Okay, I think I'm done. Okay, so when I'm done with this little wad of hair, I tidy it up so it stays put, and I always know my cut end, because you always, always, always have to root from your cut end. So I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to pull out my glue, which is the ultimate glue. And I'm going to glue the stuff that I've done inside the head. Can you see inside the head? Can you see in there? Kind of weird looking. It looks like a mustache or a little beard, spiky. So that hair is where I'm gluing so that it won't come undone. Do you have the other glue? Just a second. Minor malfunction. I have 2 bottles of this glue, and one of them is empty, which I just picked up, and the other one is full, which was on Anna's table. Alright. So I keep this stored upside down. I'm just going to scoop out a dollop and stick it down inside the head and smear it only on the hair. I don't want it anywhere else but on that hair, because I don't want to have to poke through it with the next rooting, because it makes this needle all gummy and gooey. But if I cook this on, then it's usually dried by the next time I pull the head out of the oven, and it makes it go faster when it's done. Looks kind of silly with just one little swatch of hair, but you can see it coming in. I'm going to make it thicker up on this part and then thinner where it's thinner on the front, so that maybe I'll do that when it's done. I'll come back and do that thinner section. I'll probably do it with a lighter brown color as well, just to emphasize the fact that it is thinner. So I'm going to let you get. Again, this is the glue. I can only find it on eBay or Amazon or at Hobby Lobby. I can't find it anywhere else for some reason. But it's pretty awesome stuff. It's about $5 or $6 for this. I don't know how big this is. 8-ounce jug of it. And it lasts me a good while, depending upon how many heads I make and how many heads I have to glue. This is really the only thing I use it for, so it does last a while. And then you just keep it stored upside down so that the glue's at the base where you want it when you use it next time. Alright, I will come back in a little bit with the next bit.